Around the World Lit Audio. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Chapter 6. Full narration script. Channel intro. Welcome to Around the World Lit Audio, the greatest novels ever written, from every corner of the world, in English. New chapter every week, free to listen. Chapter recap. In Chapter 5, the caravan crossed the Sahara toward Egypt. Santiago learned to read the desert signs. He met an Englishman traveling to find an alchemist, debating whether the soul of the world is learned from books or from living. The caravan stopped at the oasis of Al-Fame, delayed by tribal war. At a well, Santiago met a girl named Fatima and told her, directly, that he thought he loved her. Chapter 6. Chapter 6. Santiago went to the well every day. This became, within a week, the organizing principle of his time in the oasis. Not the caravan's delay, not the tribal war, that kept them stranded. Not even the pyramids that still waited somewhere beyond the desert's edge. The well, the hour when Fatima would be there. The conversation that followed, brief and direct, in the manner the desert had taught them both to speak. He told her about his journey, about the sheep in Andalusia, the recurring dream, the old man who called himself a king, the robbery in Tangier, the year with the crystal merchant. He told it without embellishment. The way you tell something to a person you trust will understand it without requiring it to be more dramatic than it was. She listened with the particular attention of someone who recognizes, in another person's story, something true about how the world works. She said, "You are looking for your treasure." He said, "Yes," she said, "and I am part of the desert. I was born here. I will probably die here. My father was a man of the desert, and his father before him. We do not have personal legends, the way you describe yours, or if we do, our personal legend is the desert itself." He said, "I think you could come with me." She looked at him. She said, "A woman of the desert knows that her man must go. If he doesn't go, that's not love anymore. It's possession. I would rather have you for the time you are here than try to keep you, and lose what you actually are." He found this almost unbearably wise, and also almost unbearably sad, and he did not know how to hold both of these feelings at once. So he simply sat with her, at the well, and let the silence carry what neither of them could say better than words could. The caravan remained stranded. The tribal war continued, distant but present. A fact of the desert that everyone in the oasis lived alongside without being able to do anything about it. Refugees from the conflict arrived periodically, bringing news that was always partial and often contradictory, and the oasis absorbed them the way oases absorb anything that arrives at their edge, with the patient hospitality of a place that exists because water exists, and water is shared. Santiago found himself increasingly uncertain about what to do. He had Fatima, he had the well and the conversations, and the particular quality of feeling that he now understood, with complete clarity, was love, not the love he had imagined as an adolescent, with its drama and its urgency, but something quieter and more permanent, the love of a person who has found someone they could build an entire life around. He had also the pyramids, the dream, the treasure that had pulled him across an ocean and a continent, and a year of crystal selling, and now sat, theoretically, only a desert's width away. He went to see the Englishman. The Englishman was still pursuing his alchemist, had heard, finally, that there was indeed a man of great age and great knowledge living at the edge of the oasis, a man who had lived for centuries and who might, if approached correctly, share some of what he knew. Santiago asked him, "If you found the alchemist tomorrow, and he taught you everything he knows, what would you do with it?" The Englishman thought about this. He said, "I would understand the master work, the transformation of base metal into gold, the elixir of life. I would understand the principles that govern matter and spirit and the connection between them." Santiago said, "And then?" The Englishman did not have an answer for, "and then." He had spent so much of his energy on the pursuit of knowledge, that the question of what the knowledge was for had not, apparently, required his attention. Santiago thought about Fatima. He thought about the desert teaching people to say important things directly. He thought about the difference between studying something and living it, which the Englishman had raised himself, weeks ago, and had not yet resolved. That evening, walking back from the well, Santiago saw something in the sky. Two hawks, flying high above the oasis, locked in what appeared to be combat, wings extended, talons engaged, a violent dance at considerable altitude that most people in the oasis would not have noticed, and that Santiago, trained now by months of desert attention, saw immediately and understood was significant. He stopped walking. He watched. One hawk descended sharply and then climbed again. The combat continued for a moment longer and then resolved, one hawk flying away, the other remaining master of the contested air. Santiago understood that he had seen an omen. He was not certain what it meant, but the caravan leader, when consulted, listened to Santiago's description with grave attention and said, The hawk that won is connected to this place. The hawk that fled represents an army that approaches and will be defeated. You have seen a warning. There will be an attack on this oasis, and we must prepare. This information, delivered by a young foreign stranger, who had been here only weeks, who had no formal standing among the elders of the oasis, who had simply happened to look up at the right moment, with the right kind of attention, was received with considerable skepticism by the oasis leadership. Santiago was taken to see the chieftains. He stood before men who had governed this place for decades, who had survived wars and droughts and the long patient negotiations that desert life requires, and he told them what he had seen. One of the chieftains said, "Why should we believe a stranger who reads omens in the flight of birds?" Santiago said, "Because the soul of the world speaks to anyone who listens, regardless of where they were born. I am not claiming authority. I am reporting what I saw." The chieftains conferred. They decided, with the particular caution of men who have learned that ignoring warnings is more costly than investigating them, to increase their defenses. That night, the oasis was attacked. The attack came exactly as Santiago had foreseen, a force from the warring tribes, probing the oasis defenses, testing whether Alfame could be taken. The oasis, prepared because of Santiago's warning, repelled the attack with minimal losses. In the morning, the chieftain summoned him again. The leader of the oasis, an old man of immense authority, the kind of authority that comes from having been right about enough things over enough decades, that people have stopped questioning the rightness, looked at Santiago for a long moment. He said, "You read the desert correctly. This is a rare gift. We are in your debt." Santiago said he was glad to have helped. The old man said, "I want to offer you a position of authority here. We need someone who can read the omens. You have proven that you can. Stay, and you will have a place among us, respected, valued, useful." Santiago thought about this. He thought about Fatima, who was here, who he loved, who had told him that a woman of the desert knows her man must go. He thought about the pyramids, still waiting. He thought about the Englishman, still searching for an alchemist who might or might not exist, having traveled enormous distances in pursuit of a question he had not yet learned to ask correctly. He said, "I am honored, but I have a personal legend to complete. I came here to reach the pyramids, and I have not yet reached them." The old man studied him. He said, "Then perhaps you should meet the alchemist yourself. He has been watching the omens too. He may have been waiting for someone like you." Chapter Transition. You have reached the end of Chapter 6 of The Alchemist, by Paulo Coelho. In Chapter 7, Santiago meets the alchemist, the man the Englishman has been searching for, the man who has lived for centuries, who understands the soul of the world in a way that no book has ever fully captured. The alchemist makes Santiago an offer that will determine whether he reaches the pyramids at all, and whether Fatima is waiting for him when he returns, or whether love and the personal legend are, in the end, the same journey wearing different names. Chapter 7 is available next week. Subscribe to Around the World Lit Audio so you never miss a chapter. A new chapter arrives every week.